Druid will be able to put down a board as early as turn 4, and I'll already be dead to Arbor Up after it. So at least in terms of philosophy to how you approach the matchup, we could see DawN fall anywhere between Posesi's line and Bankyugi's line.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable conclusion to come to. I don't necessarily know that I agree, because it's very, very niche hands they're going to be beating Coin, Innovate, or Lightning Bloom into Glowfly anyway. And I'm not sure that holding off on the Lunacy necessarily affords you that. But of course, if you can hit the combustions in your deck, Brain Freezes, things like that, then it can be not too terrible. But for Posesi, really nice starting hand here. I'm looking at, obviously, Nature Studies into Fungal. Off of this choice, though, honestly, you could argue for all of these. Probably Innovate, I lean towards, though.
Yeah, absolutely. If he had a bit more hand space issues, something like Guess the Weight, the Innervate is even better as a dumpable card.
Yeah.
And you could also make an argument for Landscaping, just to play after the Fungal Fortune's turn. But the Innervate makes it such that if he gets Glowfly off this next 3 draws, well, most of the time 3 draws, then he can immediately play the Glowfly the next turn. So powerful. But for DawN, definitely not a shabby result from the Font of Power, being able to cycle a bit further, but he's not hit the flow.
Yeah, I mean, literally the only downside for Posesi is that with all these fungals, there isn't much room in his hand to draw all these cards. Okay. But the Incanter's Flow, to get the reduction in cost going, is, of course, premium for DawN. Double Refreshing Spring Water in hand. We've got a game now.
We truly do. And Posesi, he has a lot of resources, but none of the huge board building tools that you really want in the matchup. We could see him hedge with just Thorn Growth into maybe Nature Studies next turn. If something sticks, that's probably good enough for an Arbor Up, and if not, then he can go for a Fungal the turn after. There's just not enough hand space to Fungal right now, unless he wants to send Coin.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at going for just like Thorn Growth Nature Studies, because even if that doesn't draw cards, it banks the mana discount. I'm not sure that's correct at all, because you might want to start the next turn with Coin or Innovate, in which case the banking of mana is pointless, but that's definitely where my head is going.
And so maybe to hedge around that possibility of wasting mana, it's perhaps Adorable instead of Nature Studies. But we see Posesi go for the Nature anyway. Now he hits a way to use the mana and not have to waste it on Coin or Innervate and still play the Coin next turn. Oh, premium for DawN though. Apexis Blast. You're not happy about sending it into a minion, but you're happy to get down a 5-drop here for sure.
Yep, no questions about it. This is the only play on this turn. Looking for Rush, and he gets the Rhino, a premium minion to get there. Now he is in the lead, but Glowfly off the top as well means that Posesi is able to get down a truly fearsome board. He can even get Power of the Wild on the same turn.
At the same time, you're a little bit interested in Lunar Eclipse and Hero Power, but maybe you just don't care about taking more damage from the Rhino.
And DawN feeling the pressure. He can't even look at this board. He can't even bear to see if there's a Glowfly coming down.
Who can blame him? Yeah, you probably just ignore the Rhino, right? The Glowfly is too strong.
Yep.
Coin, Innervate, Power of the Wild.
I think it's worth it just because Combustion becomes so much worse if you do it this way.
Yeah.
Job's done.
And again, with no Shooting Star, it's not even like double spell damage Shooting Star is a possibility. There's just very, very little that the mage can do to beat this.
And again, we could see the Spring Water nerf be huge, because DawN will certainly want to start with it this turn, but he only has 4 mana to work with afterward.
So the only other consideration I would say is that you could go Runed Orb specifically to find the Combustion, which would then allow you to clear off 3 minions. And you would need exact mana to be able to do that. But in the end, he does just say he's more likely to find something good off of the Spring Water, which overall I think I agree with.
Oh, these are not great choices, though. Nothing that's cheap. The Phoenix is not already giving him spell damage.
Yeah.
That's super unlucky. Probably just take the Mini Mage and hope for the best with Ruined Orb. Yeah. You could go cram session and say, I need to hit like double brain freeze here, but it's just not that good, right? On average, you're still just going to clear 1 minion, so I prefer the Ruined Orb.
You're literally just making room for the Treants now by clearing off the board. Like, obviously, if you didn't, you would just be dead on the spot. But, man, it's such a grim spot to be in. And with that Innovate, like, DawN is almost dead. This is 26 damage straight up.
Yep.
Again, you
and
probably...
even Lunar the Rhino probably doesn't play the Innervate, just Arbor up and ship it face, and you're a very happy chappy still. However, DawN has a top deck Flame Strike available to him.
Right, and from where Posesi is sat, it could already be Flame Strike in hand, and given that he's winning this game so heavily, that is the thing you bear in mind here. Is it ever worth going like, I mean, you probably don't go Fungal just to find Soul because you'd have to get another Innovate or Lightning Bloom as well. But it does mean that there is a chance for DawN to pull this one back, but he needs Flame Strike as literally this exact card.
And once again, Spring Water nerf means that he cannot draw into it with Spring Water and immediately play it. Only one flow started off with here. Okay, Lab Partner, that's a start. He can hit Shooting Star, Combustion, I don't know. It just has to be the perfect stuff off of this cram session.
I mean, he doesn't even run Shooting Star. He'd have to generate it off of a Ruined Orb first. Like, there's so few minions, or cards, sorry, at all that he can get here.
Evolving?
Yeah, that's
another cram session. This is pretty good.
It's not bad.
Okay. He's gonna overdraw with cram, so he starts with Spring Water, hopes to get something cheap and then play cram. Okay, we're talking.
I think you got to go cram and burn a card, right? It just doesn't matter. You need your answers now.
Yes. Fine.
That's Combustion?
Oh, that's so big! On the 1/1.
It's still not enough, though. It's so close, but it still just doesn't get there.
A valiant effort! It was so close there for DawN. Just being able to clear that board meant that he was in a very good position, even if he was at 5 health for the rest of the game, because Posesi is completely reliant on board states. And from that point onward, DawN had Mask of Cthulhu, he had these cheapened Apexis Blasts, but Posesi going all in, saying if you don't have Flame Strike, it is nearly impossible to deal with this board all at once, and he gets rewarded for it, as is the constant story of this matchup.
That's right, and having gone from looking at Mage vs Rogue earlier on yesterday, or Mage vs Warrior, as he's had in the other matchups, now finally DawN is having to face the likes of Mage versus Druid and gets thoroughly beaten in the Q order there from Posesi. So a very nice opening gambit in terms of the Q order, and of course the play as well from Posesi. Gets him off to a great start with the Druid having taken a win, and there are now 2 decks that DawN can try and counter with. But honestly, when you feel like your best bet is Rush Warrior against Druid, it's not terrible at all. He has Ogremancer in there as well, which is another tick in the favor of Rush Warrior. But it's not a great matchup. This doesn't scream of confidence from DawN.
It's true. Even though Warrior gets to play down minions that trade immediately, they don't get to play 7 minions on turn 5 the way Druid does. So a lot of the time, even if you're rushing down part of their board, if any of it sticks, it gets buffed, then you get value traded, and then you're losing. However, like you said, the Ogremancer is in the list, which can be very helpful because DawN will be oftentimes ahead on board come turn 5, and if he can get the Ogremancer down before the Glowfly board, then we're talking something different. And of course, there's always Blademaster Samuro, which we can see is not the end-all be-all of the matchup, because like for Bank Yugi, he had the first clear on Samuro, but it was still not enough to get there, but certainly very useful still.
Very useful indeed. Yeah, it's going to be a close matchup again. I don't want to overstate how bad this is for DawN because it is Rush Warrior. There are plenty of ways to immediately interact with your opponent's board, even if you're not able to go with these wide sweeping board clears that Control Warrior would have access to. But even so, I really think it's just worth mentioning again how brilliant of a position Posesi has got himself in with just a simple switch up of the Q order. And already with this starting hand, Studies and Glowfly Swarm, it's already premium.
True, but DawN's got a decent opener as well. Gennard definitely want to be kept. Studies is, we generally see that being kept as well. It's only the bumper card that I'm not really interested in here for the opening. It's just interesting to me that DawN thinks that clearly Rush Warrior is a better matchup against Token Druid than his Rogue, which, like, I keep saying Rogue is probably slightly unfavored against Druid, but I keep changing my mind every time we see it on stream, especially how handily DawN was able to pick apart the matchup last time. But still got a reasonable hand. We'll see how this one shakes out. Posesi is not going to bank the Nature Studies because he wants to go guess the weight next turn. I think it's very smart.
Yeah, it's a cool play, actually. I was thinking maybe you still go for it because you now just have Bloom that you can go for to get the Glowfly Swarm down on turn 3. It wasn't necessarily correct or incorrect, but I think it's probably better overall because with a Solar in hand, if you pick up Arbor up or Pride's Fury, you're definitely going to want to be able to do that after the Glowfly as well.
Yes, I think going for too early of a Glowfly without the card draw means you hardly get any 2/2s on the board anyway, and also saving the coin for after the Glowfly comes down allows him to potentially buff it right away. So you could see just, well, next turn, because this is most likely more, right? Yeah, because he's drawn cheaper spells.
Yeah, he's drawn 2 cards that are cheaper and 1 that's more expensive. So I think it was extremely close, but on 2 mana, it's effectively a completely 50-50 breakpoint between cheaper and more expensive.
Yeah, well, next turn, Posesi probably just goes for Nature Studies, plus, I don't know, something off the top first, so he can get the Glowfly down for 4 the very next turn. But for DawN, this is his chance to develop on the board. None of these are playable even with second Studies discount this turn, though. I'll just take the Runtack?
Yeah, probably. You're going to be drawing a lot of cards with the Athletic Studies and the Stage Dive.
It's really difficult to make that decision because he's very likely to play the other Studies, right? And if you do get a playable minion, okay, not these. I think he was likely to go for it. Something like Crab Rider that had a decent amount of health on it, right? And so if you do use the discount that one turn, then you're kind of sad about taking Runtack because it conflicts with the Ogremaster turn. In this world, though, where he ends up with something that he doesn't immediately play, the Runtack works out better. And I think it's fine to play Uncorrupted Stage Dive just to spend the mana.
Yeah, it's close because if he goes Runtack Rush, he could obviously then play the Stage Dive after playing the Runtack, but before attacking. But it would stop him from being able to play the Sky Talon. So this does give him more immediate fight back potential. As Posesi is offered yet another powerful card here. It's really just about how you want to sequence all of this because, I mean, already Bloom Glowfly is strong, but you're not getting the full suite, and you're getting even less if you factor in the Lunar Eclipse, which you would want to play. So I think it might be another setup turn here.
Yeah, I'd have to imagine so. He can go Lunar Eclipse into Bungle. And then not overdraw. This way he potentially overdraws, but maybe he'll just coin Nature Studies or something because, yeah, he doesn't need the coin. He's banked the mana, and so the Glowfly will be able to spawn all the minions next turn.
Yeah, it's very clever, and even gets another Glowfly off of the Studies. Absolutely insane. It's going to have to be a very, very powerful couple of plays from DawN to fight back. And the Sword Eater is awkward because you kind of want to just play it, but overriding the Axe does just suck.
True. It often feels counterintuitive to play rush minions developed onto the board because like they're the ones that can immediately attack when played from hand compared to Sword Eater. But for DawN's perspective, I think he really wants to go Ogremaster turn 5, so I was honestly interested in going Runtack Sky Talon even if you're wasting the rush on them. He
will actually be able to go Runthak Skytal is a beast as well, right? And then Tent Trasher still as well. Or would that be one off? Oh, I think that might be 1 mana off being playable, actually. Ignore me.
Potentially really powerful, though. And
the
good...
Consider.
The upside of holding, of course. Oh, it's the Runthak gets to buff his hand, and it buffs Samuro. Not all playable this turn, but it's fine. He can start the buffs, clear a lot of this down, and be in a good position following this turn.
I mean, that is just an absolutely monstrous top deck. You definitely still think here about Ogremancer, I will say, because Ogremancer plus Sky Talon is kind of strong. You're still protecting your Ogremancer from a lot. And you get to clear off 4 of the minions. Is that better? I'm kind of persuading myself now. I know you don't get to buff the Samuro, but if you can stick an Ogremancer, it's so big.
Oh, I'm not a fan. It's like the buff on the Samuro is so good, right? But then you can make the argument of like, is the Samuro buff that good if you're going to see a ton of buffs on the board next turn? But my answer would still be yes, because you're clearing more minions by going immediately Runthak this turn. And so Posesi is very likely to take a redevelopment turn instead of buffing what few minions remain. And then the Samuro is really good, right?
Okay. Fair enough. It would have only been 3 minions left. I do think that was kind of close, but I will concede the point on this one for now, as Posesi is left with a whole lot of ways to generate a board, but no way to buff them is the really devastating part here. He can make nothing bigger than 2/2s on this turn, which just gets destroyed by Samuro.
Yeah, against this specific pan out, DawN's play is so strong.
Yeah.
Not to mention, Posesi's just kind of dying. This ETC has stuck for so long. All these rush minions have been going face. And Posesi now, he has this Gibberling. Miracle's still possible, but he needs a buff card stat.
Ooh, that's kind of a buff card. It doesn't necessarily make the Ogremancer easier to clear. But this is still very much not over for DawN. His ability to actually answer this board is going to be kind of low, especially, of course, when you factor in Soul of the Forest. So we're just looking at, I think, if we can see Pride's Fury, Arbor up, Power of the Wild next turn, Posesi's very much back in this.
True. You can see DawN feels like he's losing, even though he's in like a pretty decent spot still. That's just what Token Druid can do with all of these resources.
Soul Hero Power. Oi, 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 this is strong. Stops a lot of the damage too. I think it's very smart to take care of the ETC now, even if it's done a lot of the damage.
Ogremancer, if it happens this turn, is obviously much less powerful compared to a while ago for this specific board state. But it's still decent in the world where there's no immediate Arbor up. The most scary thing is Solar Eclipse into Arbor up, which, if they're both played in one turn, is going to generate minimum 2 taunts for DawN if he goes Ogremancer, and I'm pretty sure he will. So is he dead to that?
Even if you go Ogremancer and Bumper Car, you can still just trade it down, right, with everything on board into the Ogremancer, which obviously is huge amounts of resources to sink into it. But if there's nothing better, it means he still has a bunch of 2/2s left on the board.
True. Oh, Ogremancer's buffed.
Oh, good point. Yeah, no, that's true. I did forget about that.
Me too, admittedly. And the Samuro can go in the 2/2 with the weapon swing. So it's 5 1/1s left. And again, if there is the Arbor up off the top, Solar Eclipse into Arbor up still generates 2 taunts.
Yeah, I guess you do just have to buff everything up here, right? It makes 2 skeletons that make things a little harder to clear, but you can then still clear the Ogremancer if that's your priority. But honestly, after that, you might just start pushing everything face and go for lethal.
Yeah, it's huge that the Gibberlings get to value trade as well.
Very true.
Does he even trade into the Ogremancer? I'm not sure.
Right, yeah. I
At this point,
aggro.
the fear now for Posesi is Troublemaker, right? We're in that position of the game where you do just kind of want to be as wide as possible, because if you trade down the 3/3/3s into the 4/8, then the Troublemaker can potentially take value trades, the 2/3/3s at least.
Yeah.
Time waits for no one.
So if anything, he trades things that aren't the Ogremaster.
Exactly, because it's not only Troublemaker, it's also just Alex Straza. Like, Posesi is kind of afraid of dying. If he just points everything face, he maybe isn't necessarily winning this race if DawN can clear up a little bit this turn with rushes and then push for lethal with Alex Straza. But this, I do agree, in the end is definitely the way to go. DawN gets the Playmaker, though, off the top.
It's 4 damage of trading power plus the Warmaul Challenger.
Yeah.
So he can get through like 2 minions and their second layers, right?
Sure, yeah. That's
Three,
correct.
including the Ogremaster trade.
Yeah, if you trade
That's pretty good.
Marcel, it would leave three attack minions on the board. That is pretty good.
And ideally, I think he wants to send the Warmaul Challenger into a 2/2 that spawns so that it still has quite a lot of health on it at the end. But okay, that means he's like potentially clearing less damage by not sending the Warmaul into a second layer, right? With more health on it.
No, I definitely did like the idea more of just making sure you do as much as possible.
Is he thinking Thrasher
Really?
instead? Okay.
Wow.
So he's pushing for lethal with the setup, I guess. He might have a solid read on no Arbor up, to be fair, but oh man, if this trade goes there, I don't know. He's still leaving
the one without Death Rattle. Like, surely it's more important to clear more attack off the board.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me, that last trade. But he's still in a good spot because Posesi's drawn kind of dead.
Yeah, that's a completely dead draw. You can obviously kill the Ogremaster, which is probably the first port of call here. And then you just pray that your next card is Fungal Fortunes. Because
or
I think
Arbor up.
Yeah, exactly, or Arbor up, right? I don't think at the moment this gets there. Even if you push everything face, you're just losing the race. Straight up dead to Alex Straza.
You can, however, clear the 6/4 with a hero power. You leave very little attack on the other side. I don't think you care about the Warmaul Challenger by that point.
Time waits for no one.
He's seen Samuro, so there's even some argument to like just playing a Gibberling this turn. But you'd have to use Lightning Bloom to multiply it. Although, to be fair, I don't think the Lightning Bloom has very much utility next turn either way. Okay.
I mean, maybe again, if you do get Fungal into Arbor, you might need to use the Lightning Bloom to get the Solar Eclipse down on the same turn. Whatever it is, it's going to come down to top decks, as Bumper Car is a monstrous card to find now for DawN. I mean, I still don't know if I agree with saving the Playmaker, but this is the reward for doing so.
That's massive.
Is that a full board clear? I think it is.
Feels like it.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is, Posesi's not out. You're right, Fungal Fortunes is still a good draw. DawN is super gassed out after this. He has a bunch of 1/1s, but they don't threaten lethal, and he played ETC, Gibberling into Fungal! That could immediately give Posesi a huge board to work with.
Use Solar first? I honestly don't know, because maybe your out is to hit exactly Solar plus Arbor, which is still possible, right? Because of the Lightning Bloom?
Yes.
Really close.
That's a good catch. I think it's right to take all the draw. Too many resources. DawN is stressed out. I think he knows the window is closing for him. Even if he top decks Alex Straza, he's only threatening 7 on board. Not enough for lethal. Cenarian Ward for next turn.
Cenarian Ward's sick. Yeah, that's a great card.
Locks out an Alex type of out for DawN as well.
And then
Even if he floats a mana, it's fine.
Yeah, I like Prides over Soul of the Forest here, I think. You've seen Samuro. It's just about sticking as much attack and health on the board. Wow, okay.
Time waits for no one.
The thing is, he could still play Prides next turn. However, with the overload, he can't potentially go Prides and Arbor all at the same time if he top decks the Arbor. So I do like Prides right now.
Yeah, it's really close, actually. Does end up on the Pride's Fury. Okay. Gets more immediate trading power, as we were saying, as that is a big factor in this plan. Crab Rider is not bad, you know. It allows him to get some immediate board clear.
Right. How much, though? It's essentially 2 damage on the first one and 1 damage on the second. It's like, it's really not a lot.
It's not, right?
And the problem is for DawN, he's not giving himself Alexstrasza outs. He might have to send the 4-3 face. Oh man, no, it just doesn't get there. If you can't send enough damage to get Posesi down to 7 effectively because of the hero power you have to account for, then you might as well just clear as much of the board you can. And it's a decent amount. 2 forests left by the end of this.
Yeah. It's decent, like you say. But I wonder if it's quite decent enough.
Actually gonna come down to the Cenarian Ward, isn't it? Because Posesi's kind of out of value after this.
Is it Cenarian Ward? I feel like I might be more inclined to go guess the weight into Arbor up. There's still 2 of them in the deck, right? It's close.
Yeah. Okay, if DawN's doing this and not trading the last minion, then it's not Cenarian Ward. It is
DawN growth
this.
plus Arbor. Oh, that is disgusting. I think DawN might be being pushed out of this game.
He just doesn't get there anymore. He doesn't have outs without Samuro.
Really? Okay. Actually, fair enough. Yeah. Going for the Soul of the Forest here instead, I can respect as well. It does the same thing, right? You clear the board and you set up lethal.
Yeah. I can't believe that this has panned out this way after that huge Samuro from DawN. It's kind of like deja vu of that huge Samuro we saw from Bank Yugi not getting there against Posesi, and the conditioning as the top deck just rubs salt in the wound. DawN knows that it is over.
Oh my goodness, I cannot believe that Posesi managed to pull this one back. Again, at the start of the game, he obviously looked very much in control. But with DawN, being able to find that early Samuro, the Runthak, I do want to go back to that Ogremancer turn. I do still think there was some thinking there that you could have stuck it down. There was a taunt in the way. It would have summoned another taunt if a single spell had been played. It was very likely to survive the turn. Not necessarily better at all, but getting it down when it did for DawN, it was just too late. It died too easily.
Very true. Ogremancer into an already developed board really does not do that much. And DawN, he'll be looking back at every single turn, not just the one we talked about and argued back and forth on, because even in the later turns when the decisions were slightly less complicated as well, we saw some really weird trades there where he left like more power on Posesi's side of the board than he needed to. It was very wishy-washy in terms of whether he wanted to go for a trade game plan or a face race to try and set up for an Alex lethal. I will say DawN's top decks towards the end were pretty unlucky, but I think he would have given himself a better chance with some different lines. He is, however, though, left with this Miracle Rogue, which has consistently been a top-performing deck for DawN.
It's been doing very well. It's been doing very well against Token Druid as well, for that matter, especially the Broomstick. This is one matchup in particular where it shines like no other. Just being able to go for a big Neophyte, Foxy Fraud, One Thief turn, and then just push everything like a wave crashing against the shore into all those trees does make for a much more consistent game plan. And I think, again, he has shown good understanding. Like we saw earlier today, even when he went coin into Swindle, which I was I'm not sure was correct, it had strong reasoning behind it. As you pointed out, you're trying to find Neophyte or the Octobot, more importantly, to try and win the matchup that way. So he clearly knows what he's looking for in terms of a game plan.
Absolutely. I think DawN on the Neophyte, he at least has very good understanding of what turns it's really powerful on. And namely, that can be turn 2 and turn 3. It's not necessarily the same as Demon Hunter, where you want to save it for particularly the skull turn or a turn where they want to clear. It's all about trying to deny the fluidity of Token Druid starts, whether it's the card draw or the buff turns. And the Cult Neophyte does well against both. Finding that window to stick field contact earlier on today is also extremely powerful. And I think DawN will still be able to replicate that result. Even if he does, though, this is only the first game he will have won in the series, and there's still much to get through, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there, Derek.
We will, as Posesi gets himself in Nature Studies again. One of those cards that I find you just always keep in Token Druid. Too powerful in terms of the mana reduction and banking that mana to get rid of. The rest of his hand was a bit more questionable. Now, I have no questions at all. My answer, however, is tree, tree, tree.
And mushroom to work with here for Posesi. Hey, it's the amulet that we keep talking about is sometimes an out to get lethal.
Yeah, maybe it's just good. It's a way to kill off another key minion, like if they play Man-Crick or a Field Contact. Yeah, well, yeah, great point. That's a big one as well.
Yeah, that's so premium. It covers even the best possible play from DawN this turn. And guess what? He doesn't have it, so Posesi gets to chug along with his Fungal Fortunes game plan. If he hits Glowfly, he's in a great spot. Gibberling lost, a bit painful, but not a big deal in the grand scheme of things, I think, because he still has tons of resources, second Fungal, to keep drawing towards the heavy hitters.
And DawN's hand is so bad that I kind of want to just go tempo contact here. It's wrong. I know it's wrong, but I want to do it. And DawN agrees. He's just throwing out and saying, please, please, please do not have an answer to this. Honestly, I respect it.
I respect it as well. Posesi is the one who thought it was clearly wrong, though. Did you see the way his eyebrows did? It was so fun. He's like, okay, cool. I'm going to create some hand space now for my Fungal Fortunes.
Yeah. I mean, realistically speaking, I still think it was incorrect to do it there for DawN. I think his likelihood of winning, you're more likely to hit Shadow Step or Octobot in the next 1 or 2 cards, and then you pop off, rather than they have no way to deal with it whatsoever. Because, again, while it is only 2 lunar eclipses, they're fairly likely to have found one. And again, they could have found something off of the... off of the Nature Studies as well. And it does make this hand for DawN so much worse.
Orb gives him a potential way to discover a card draw. I don't think he can take flow in this situation.
Agreed. I mean, he's drawn most of his spells already. There aren't that many in the deck.
He's not playing the orb? The whole reasoning for taking the orb is so he can have something better to do next turn, potentially. I was really interested in banking that mana.
I mean, what is there really you can get in Rogue
Passage.
yeah, I guess.
Windle. Just anything.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong.
Even Cutting Class, you take it there.
Fair enough.
However, for Posesi, there's no board development other than Thorngrove Sentries. That might still be good enough to get there, quite honestly. Like, if he goes Thorngrowth into Innervate Prides, I guess that's not even good enough, right?
Oh, you
He's
can
just
go
gonna
Mark
go
of the
Mark.
Spike Shell.
Yeah.
That's clever.
Sure.
And I mean, again, another 1/2 here is not bad. I think they're 1 mana tokens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's decent. It strangely, though, lines up pretty poorly against DawN's hand, which is just a bunch of removal. Okay, Orb going to go into a 1/2 now, you'd have to imagine.
Yes.
Yoink for Warlock?
Yeah, even if you get Paladin, it's okay, right? Just to get some board presence, and it spends your mana for the turn.
Yep.
Okay.
Foxy Brain Freeze. I don't know why you wouldn't just start with Yoink then, but sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to play it, it's just a slight misordering.
Okay,
Posem?
Demon Hunter lets him trade over the 1-2. I guess he was gonna dagger the 1-2 anyway, right?
I mean, you just take Druid if you're taking Demon Claws. It's
true.
literally just worse. But yeah, I kind of have my eyes set on Totemic Call, I think.
Yeah, I agree. It's so weird that we're in this spot, but the 1-1s are not bad. The Strength Totem might be okay. Healing's pretty good here because he's good at PT. Okay.
Not bad.
This is already such a weird pan out for both sides. Okay.
Oh,
That's
Gibberling,
the juice.
Coin, Bloom, Solar Arbor. Get out of here.
I agree. Does he actually miss on some treants if he does it in that order? When... That's right.
Yes, one. I mean, again, sorry, you do think this turn. This is a position where you should think Posesi, because Solar Eclipse plus Arbor is not necessarily the best play. It probably is, but you might be able to go for some kind of a Soul of the Forest this turn and then set up for Solar Eclipse next turn with the Arbor up. But this probably is good enough to just get the win.
So if we're talking optimization, we could have seen Innervate first, then play the Gibberling, and then he could have gotten... Oh wait, no, sorry, you would have gotten another 4-3 instead of a 5-3, right?
Yeah, I mean, it has Spell Burst at the end. Oh no, wait, it wouldn't have, so it's just better this way. Well, One Thief, we are looking for Cone of Cold just to survive. Shooting Star with no spell power. Doesn't have quite the same ring to it as it does in Mage.
This is just so over. And to be fair, even if DawN had held onto the field contact with no discounts, it probably wouldn't have gotten there, but it wouldn't have felt this one-sided.
Yeah, I think he was losing that game anyway.
Rough way to go out.
To be fair to him, maybe if the field contact is stuck, that was his best chance. Like, my instincts say it was probably incorrect. I'm not going to stick by that too heavily at all. It was a bad hand to have in the matchup anyway. So I don't think it was ridiculous, the play he made at all.
Absolutely. And it's going to be a couple more turns before this one is over, so perhaps there's still some outs, you know, he could get Secret Passage next turn into Jandice, into Miracles.
Yeah. Okay. If it's Passage off the top,
Prides this turn.
then we can have a talk. But yeah, I think just Prides alone. Honestly, I wouldn't even hate Lunar Eclipse on the Taunt Totem just to push an extra 5 damage.
Looks good. Zessie's worried about this exact thing we're talking about, right? Okay, worried is an overstatement. He is mildly concerned about the possibility of Secret Passage into Jandice / this generated Mage spell, which from his perspective could be Flame Strike.
Right, that's the thing here, and DawN did just attack in with the dagger into a minion there. And with the Pride's Fury in hand, maybe he's thinking that he's trying to get the minions down to the 5 health breakpoint that would incentivize you to go for Soul of the Forest instead. But in the end, Posesi says, you know what, even if you do have Flame Strike, which is extremely unlikely, he's still in a decent spot in the game, right? Actually, he just wins next turn because he'll have to attack in and then Moon Touched Amulet, so this is just correct.
Yeah, really good spot from Posesi. And even if the mask hits all the minions, there's still going to be 1/6 attack alive. And that is the game. Rough one for DawN, admittedly. And field contact, we can argue back and forth as to whether playing it for tempo is actually his best out there. But for Posesi, we might have a new Lorax in the forest, Dara.
Indeed, the Guardian of the Forest here, as he is doing incredible work with this token druid, and also I think just starting to get back the reputation that he deserves, because when we talk about the best Japanese players, we do start, I think we leave Posesi out of the discussion a little bit too much. You know, to some reason we are justified in that. Glory has won a world championship. Alutemu has consistently been one of the best players in Asia Pacific, just doing incredibly well season on season. But Posesi just doing very, very well this week. I really like the way he's played. Again, the lineup doing very well for him that it did also for Alutemu and Glory. But he can start to be entered back into that discussion of the incredibly strong trifecta or trifecta of Japanese players who are doing very, very well. And also entering the discussion of top players in APAC, as he should, with a very nice win here.
Derek, I can't take it. It's you making tree jokes. It's Lorinda and Sottle making tree jokes in the Discord. Everybody's just a fun guy tonight, aren't they? I mean,
Hey.
what is going on?
Tree!